Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading, Massachusetts. My name is Andy Gatchell, and I'm a member of the worship arts team. My pronouns are he and him. Our mission statement declares that the UU Church of Reading is a welcoming place to nurture and explore individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and heal the world. We are an intentionally inclusive congregation serving communities north of Boston and beyond. We welcome you, no matter your age, gender identity, sexual orientation, differing abilities, religious background, spiritual beliefs, or political perspective. If this is your first time with us, we would like to extend a special welcome. Please visit our webpage, uureading.org, for more information about UUCR. There you can find details about our church community, sign up for the weekly newsletter, and find the contact information for Melissa Martin, our new member coordinator, who can answer your questions. Because we want you and everyone joining us for our service today to know something. You belong here. You belong here maybe for the next hour, though we hope for longer. You belong here, and we are happy to have you with us. Since November of 2019, UUCR has been donating half of the funds received in the collection plate to a nonprofit organization that shares our UU values. It's a simple yet powerful way for each of us to help heal the world by learning and supporting the good works of charitable organizations and becoming more involved in our community. We do this not because we have more than we need, but because there is so much need. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of November is the UU Holding India program, UU-HIP. UU-HIP was created in 1984 through a donation by Jonathan Holding, a lawyer and businessman with a concern for India's economic development. It has partnered with more than 70 grassroots service organizations across India, fighting to enforce land rights for indigenous tribes, free bond laborers, educate child laborers, help poor women take charge of their lives, and demand dignity and equality for Dalits, previously characterized as untouchables. Since the COVID surge in May, UU-HIP partners have been working around the clock. The surge has led to severe shortages in oxygen, medical supplies, and hospital beds. The raging virus has not spared any part of the country. The road to recovery will be long and challenging. Later, we will provide an opportunity for you to join our effort. If you're new here, please know that your presence is gift enough in itself. If you're not a newcomer, after the sermon, please give generously to our virtual Share the Plate offering to support both UU-HIP and the mission of UUCR.
Good morning and welcome. I am Katie McQuaige-Lucas, your ministerial intern, and my pronouns are she and hers. Our opening words this morning are from the Gray Hymnal by Robert French Levins. Holy and beautiful the custom which brings us together in the presence of the Most High, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened and to be strengthened, Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of ages, the cathedral music of history. 3 unseen guests attend, faith, hope, and love. Let all our hearts prepare them place. And now Nancy will lead us in our chalice lighting and our children's affirmation.
Please join me in our chalice lighting words. In the light of truth, in the warmth of community, in the fire of commitment we gather this day, may the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. And now, the children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists, the church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands.
Good morning. I'm Mary Cunningham. I'm the music director here at UU Church of Reading, and we're going to open with a hymn that's in our teal hymnal, number 1023. The words for this very simple song are probably in the chat, so please sing along as we sing through this 3 times, and go ahead and make it around. I'll sing it through 3 times. Go ahead and sing the round with me. Building Bridges. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Building bridges between our divisions, I reach out to you, will you reach out to me? With all of our voices and all of our visions, friends, we could make such sweet harmony. Thank you.
So today, for the Time for All Ages, I have a story for you. Long ago in Ethiopia, a woman named Leah married a man who had a son. His wife had died several years before, and no matter how hard Leah tried, she could not seem to spark a connection with the child. She offered him food, but he would not eat. She spoke softly to him, and he turned away. She sat next to him, and he would get up and walk away. After several months of this, she did not know what to do. And in her village there was a wise man, a healer, who lived off in the mountains. Whenever anyone in the village was sick or in pain, a visit to him would do the trick. Now, most of the time, Leah felt that she could solve her own problems, but this time she knew that she needed help. She came up to his home, and she saw that the door was open. And the old man said, without turning around, "I hear you coming, what's the problem?" And so she introduced herself, and she explained, and he said, "Yes, I understand, but what do you want me to do about it?" "Make me a potion," she said, "anything, whatever it takes to get the child to respond to me." And he looked her in the eye and he said, "Young woman, this is not a broken bone or an ear infection. I'll need some time to think about it, so come back in 3 days." 3 days later, she returned. "Leah," he said, "I have good news for you. There is a potion that will change the child's behavior towards you, but you should know, It needs a special ingredient. You must bring me a whisker from a live lion." "A lion's whisker," she said. "That's not possible." "Do you want your stepson to turn around?" he said. "Bring me a whisker from a lion. There's nothing more to say. As you can see, I'm a very busy man." And so all night she tossed and turned, and she pondered this. How could she get a whisker from a live lion? The next day she left the house, and she took with her a bowl of rice covered with a meat sauce. She went to a grove of shady trees where lion tracks had been seen, and she set down the bowl and walked away. The next day at the same time, she took another bowl of rice with meat sauce. When she saw that the old bowl was empty, she took it, and she put down a new full one, and again she left very quietly. Every day she did this for months. She never saw the lion, but she knew from the footprints on the ground that it was the lion who was eating the food. And then one day she saw the lion's head peeking out behind some trees. Being very careful not to look him in the eye, she came forward and put the bowl in the same spot as always, picked up the empty bowl and stepped away. Day by day, the lion was closer and closer every time she brought the bowl. One morning, he was sitting down next to the empty bowl when she arrived, waiting for her. This time, she sat and she waited while he ate. And when he was done, she petted his thick fur, just as if he were a little house cat. She looked into the lion's eyes, and she knew that the lion trusted her. Actually, she thought, he's a little friendly once you get to know him. And so this went on for a little while until finally she thought the time had come to ask him for a favor. And so the next day she brought with her a small knife, and after she set down the bowl of food and the lion allowed her to pet his head, she said in a low voice, "Oh, dearest lion, might I please have just one of your many fine whiskers?" And while petting the lion with one hand, she quickly cut off a whisker with the other, being very careful not to hurt him. "Thank you, my gentle friend," she said. And so she ran back to the wise man's house. Holding the whisker tightly, she said, "I have it. I have the lion's whisker." "You don't say," said the old man. "From a live lion?" "Yes." "Tell me, how did you do it?" And so she explained to him what she had done. And with pride, she handed him the whisker, and he looked at it with amazement. And then he went to the fire and threw it in, where it burned up to a crisp. "What have you done?" she said. "You know what it took for me to get that." "Leah," he said, "you don't need the whisker. Is this child more dangerous than a lion? If a wild beast will respond to your patient care, don't you think a child who misses his mother will too?" And she was startled, but she thought, maybe. And so she walked home and she thought about what she might do. Every week, we light our candle of community to honor all the members of our community who have been part of us. For those near and far, for those who are with us in spirit or in body, and for those who are with us in sacred memory, we light our candle with gratitude, knowing that we rest on the shoulders of those who came before. And now we tend the flame while we imagine those who will come behind us. And so let us take a deep breath and settle into this place, this time. And let us settle into a time of prayer. Spirit of life, you are the spark within each of us, and you are a spark in every being in this universe. Burn bright and strong within us, that we might be light and warmth for one another when someone else's spark has dimmed. As the Climate Change Summit concludes, We pray that our leaders might act out of love and not fear or greed or ambition, so that they and we might meet this moment with all that is necessary to care for our beloved planet. And wherever there is conflict or brokenness in our human interactions, in Nicaragua this week, in Ethiopia, in Poland and Belarus, here in our own nation, and in all the small interactions that don't make the news, we pray that love might overcome division, and that we might meet one another with care and with peace in our hearts. Spirit of life, burn brightly in us, that we might be agents of your love and of your justice. Amen, and may it be so.
It's how I hold my head up after I have missed the mark. It's how I know I loved when things are dark. It's how I stand when I am feeling small. How I stand again after a fall. It's how I'm even standing here at all. Some people call it grace. Falling down like rain on everyone, so warm, like greetings from the sun, like a gentle snow. It's making every surface glow. And I know I didn't earn it. That's how I know it's grace. It's how two people keep their love alive through thick and thin. It's how a broken people sing again. It's how the wounded set aside the blame, how the down and out cast out the shame. It's how we know that holy is our name. We're all the same to grace. Falling down like rain on everyone, so warm, like greetings from the sun, like a gentle snow. It's making every surface glow. And I didn't have to earn it. No, I didn't have to earn it. I didn't have to earn it through a word or through a deed or through a trial or through a creed or by denying what I need. I only had to reach out my hand and it was there. But still it cannot take away the truths I have to face. Oh no, 'cause that's not how it works with grace. Falling down like rain on everyone, so warm, like greetings from the sun, like a gentle snow. It's making every surface glow. And I know I didn't earn it. No, I didn't have to earn it. That's how I know it's grace.
Today's reading is a poem, To Have Without Holding, by Marge Piercy. Learning to love differently is hard. Love with the hands wide open. Love with the doors banging on their hinges. The cupboard unlocked. The wind roaring and whimpering in the rooms. Rustling the sheets and snapping the blinds. The thwack like rubber bands in an open palm. It hurts to love wide open. Stretching the muscles that feel as if they're made of wet plaster, then of blunt knives, then of sharp knives. It hurts to thwart the reflexes of grab, of clutch, to love and let go again and again. It pesters to remember the lover who is not in the bed, to hold back what is owed to the work that gutters like a candle in a cave. Without air, to love consciously, conscientiously, concretely, constructively. I can't do it, you say. It's killing me. But you thrive. You glow on the street like a neon raspberry. You float and sail a helium balloon, bright bachelor's button blue and bobbing on the cold and hot winds of our breath. As we make and unmake in passionate diastole and systole the rhythm of our unbound bonding. To have and not to hold, to love with minimized malice, hunger and anger by moment balanced.
You know, before I begin, I want to thank Mary and Trevor for that beautiful music. It's wonderful to hear, and I could listen to Mary play the flute forever. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy Nienhaus, and my pronouns are she and her. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. We are in the holiday season when many different world religions celebrate a holiday that's meaningful to them. Whether that's the Jewish Hanukkah, the Hindu, Sikh, and Jain Diwali, the Buddhist Bodhi Day, the Christian celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ, or the pagan and Wiccan Yule. November and December bring holidays that we celebrate with friends and family. Now, it can be easy to love friends. A little mixed when it comes to families sometimes. But generally, holidays are filled with an easy kind of love. Love of those we know, with those with whom we choose to spend time. And that reminds me of a story that demonstrates love enacted during a holiday. In this case, Thanksgiving, which will be here before we know it. Now, this story was told by Robin McCutcheon and published in Yankee magazine. Robin tells it this way. I spent my first Thanksgiving with my husband in his Irish-Italian neighborhood in New York City. As a newcomer, I was placed in charge of boiling 15 pounds of potatoes. When they were ready, I picked up the pan and I surveyed the crowded kitchen for a sink in which to drain them. My husband's elderly Uncle Bob guided me to a small half bathroom and grabbed the steaming pot. We started to drain the potatoes into the toilet. But Bob lost his grip on the lid and all the potatoes tumbled in. "Oh no!" I yelled. And Bob, he just started fishing the potatoes out of the toilet. "No one will ever know," he whispered to me. "Now just go out there and mash them." Sometime later, during the meal, my husband's Aunt Tot leaned over and whispered, "Your potatoes are delicious. I think you're going to fit into this family quite nicely." Now, Uncle Bob could have done nothing and left Robin to admit that all the potatoes were ruined. Or he could have reported the incident to the crowded kitchen, embarrassing Robin in the process. But instead, he immediately enacted love. He rolled up his sleeves, quite literally, and helped fix the situation. No one was the wiser. You'll never look at potatoes at Thanksgiving in quite the same way, will you? Loving people we don't know well or don't know at all is much harder, much more difficult than loving people we know. Wise people have understood this for centuries. That may be one reason that most world religions and spiritual traditions have in common a key belief that to be a spiritual person is to love others. Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh explains that the greater our compassion and understanding, the less we suffer, and the more we can embrace others. Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam all see love for others as vital, as key to being a spiritual person, as reflecting love of God or Allah. For we UUs, loving others is reflected in our church mission, our relational covenant, and in our UU values. Now, I promise I won't read all of those to you right now. But I do want to pull out the excerpts that have to do with loving each other. In our mission, we say we're going to build a committed and loving community. This is how we want to be with each other. Our relational covenant tells us how to get there, how to be a loving community. We're going to communicate with honesty, care, and respect, and listen with attention, patience, and an open mind. We're going to support each other, no matter our difficult struggles. We're going to embrace our differing perspectives and beliefs. We're going to forgive ourselves and each other when we fall short. If our mission of building loving community with each other is our vision for how we'll be together, and our UUCR covenant lays out the map for achieving that vision, then in the 7 UU principles that we affirm as UUs, we find what we will look like if we accomplish this path to love. It tells us what it is to enact love. I will be able to affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. I will be able to enact justice and equity and compassion in human relations. And I'll be able to practice acceptance of one another. Now that's expecting a lot, especially from me. I'm a human being, and frankly, I mess up all the time. Sometimes we mess up as a church. When we went to the meeting to call Reverend Hank, some of us yelled at others of us when the vote didn't go our way. Some of us felt belittled that day and never came back to church. We did not resemble our mission and covenants that day. I could have done more to ease the situation, but I didn't. I don't know why. We all could have done more. Loving in the hard times isn't easy. It takes a lot of commitment and practice. What these covenants and principles are saying is that to live together successfully means we agree to enact love in our every dealing with each other, whether we agree or not, whether it's easy or hard. And Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us that other people's actions are the result of their own pain and not the result of any intention to hurt you. So what does enacting love in the hard times look like? I'm going to tell you two brief stories, both of which come out of World War II, one of the hardest times the world has known. For the first story, some years back, a very good friend of mine died. She was born in France in 1938 into a Jewish family. When Hitler rose to power, her parents, like so many French Jewish parents, hid Monique and her brother Michel with farm families in the French countryside so the Nazis couldn't find them. Eventually, Monique and Michel rejoined their mother and father, and they began searching for somewhere that the family could be together. They learned about a little village in southern France at the base of the Pyrenees Mountains, and they made their way there. The mayor and the citizens of that town, none of whom were Jewish, had decided that they would risk their own lives to hide Jewish families among them. They built secret stairways to attic hiding places in their homes, the doors of which they kept hidden behind large wardrobes. Whenever the chief of police of the town was notified by local Nazis that they were coming through for a raid and he'd better get his men ready, he notified every family in town so the Jewish families among them could go and hide. Because of the heroism of these townspeople, Monique and her immediate family survived the war. These townspeople were supposed to hate all Jews, but instead, they enacted love. A second story. We have a flaming chalice as our symbol of Unitarian Universalism, and you can see a beautiful example of it right here in front. You may not know that this emblem symbolizes love for others and sacrifice for the sake of justice. It was created in 1941 by Hans Deutsch, an Austrian artist who lived in Paris in the 1930s. Deutsch used to draw cartoons that were critical of Hitler. So when the Nazis came into Paris, he had to flee. As a result, he went to Portugal, where he became involved in the Unitarian Service Committee's efforts to assist people who needed to flee from Nazi persecution. Now, the Service Committee was unknown at that time, and those working within it needed a symbol by which they could recognize each other in this dangerous cloak and dagger world. They needed a sign that all Service Committee members would know, so they could trust those with whom they were working. Deutsch created the chalice and the flame symbol to be used for this. So the very sign of Unitarian Universalism was born out of enacted love on behalf of others. It is a sign of enacted love. Now, please don't doubt that you can enact love despite whatever limitations you might have. What enacted love requires and what we think we might be up to may seem like two different things, but they're not. I want to consider the profile of a young man based on an actual case history. Now, this young man talked about suicide for weeks at a time. He even wrote poetry about putting a dagger into his heart. He was known to sometimes just go crazy, and people had to remove any sharp objects from his rooms. He wandered around with a gun sometimes during periods of suicidal ideation, and he collapsed while speaking openly about his hopelessness and his thoughts of suicide. Moreover, this young man had many, many failings in his career. In 1832, he was defeated for state legislature. He failed in business. He had a nervous breakdown. He was defeated for nomination to Congress. He was rejected for land officer. He was defeated in a race for the U.S. Senate. He was defeated in his race for a nomination for vice president. He was defeated again for the Senate. But in 1860, he was elected president of the United States. This was Abraham Lincoln. Never underestimate what you can do regardless of what your life might look like at any given time. Now we know that enacting love isn't in the heroic acts that play on a big screen or stage. Enacting love is what you do when no one is looking. Enacting love is saying yes to need, yes to acting against the status quo, opening yourself to those who may not even care for you. Enacted love is saying to the fellow UUCR congregational person who disagrees with you at an annual meeting or vote or other event, I respect you, I love you, despite our disagreements. We in the UU Church of Reading are each unique. We're not all spectacular. We don't all have impressive backgrounds, and most of us are not famous. But we can all say yes to enacting love. Enacted love is in our history as UUs. It's what we do. It's what our neighbors need us to do. What we need to do together if we are to become the loving community that is our mission. Let us recommit ourselves to that journey. And good luck with potatoes on Thanksgiving. Amen, and may it be so.
I am Melissa Martin, your Member Services and Volunteer Coordinator and the Interim Congregational Administrator. My pronouns are she and her. In our congregational life, we invite you to become more deeply engaged in the opportunities of spiritual nourishment, fellowship, engagement, and leadership. This week's church programming includes our regular weekly offerings, as well as our in-person evening sanctuary. For those unfamiliar with evening sanctuary, This is an in-person opportunity to be at church, in the sanctuary, with other congregants in a meditative space of music, candles, and connection. We began hosting evening sanctuary at the beginning of September, and so far we've had 10 offerings that have been deeply meaningful for the many congregants who have participated. Special thanks to the staff and lay leaders who have made this possible. If you've been missing the sanctuary, lighting candles, or simply the essence of the spiritual home, please drop in and join us this Wednesday, anytime from 5 to 7 p.m. I would like to share that our reopening team was incredibly pleased with the participation of 117 congregants who offered their perspectives in our reopening survey. On a positive note, 100% of those who participated in this survey volunteered that they and eligible members of their household were fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Just over 90% of those surveyed look forward to safely returning to in-person services when we're able to make that happen in the very near future. While almost 10% of our congregants plan to continue to solely utilize our online services and programming for at least the time being. All congregants should be confident that the reopening team and church leadership are committed to making both of these models available. This survey feedback is being applied to our reopening plan, and you'll be getting official notification with the plans for our safe reopening in the weeks to come. While our reopening team has been hard at work with those plans, our tech team continues to keep these services available online and will do so even after our sanctuary is open on Sunday mornings. Many do not know this, but beyond the worship staff, these services have been made entirely possible for the last 88 weeks through the painstaking dedication of a few unpaid volunteers. Countless hours are spent every week and then all morning on Sunday to produce these meaningful services and make them available to each one of you. The online tools we have used have evolved over time and sometimes week to week, depending on service leaders and the support. But what has not changed is the tremendous commitment to make this happen at all costs. This has meant incredible long-term sacrifices made by just a handful of volunteers to keep this going. Now that we are actively preparing for our in-person return to the sanctuary, there are other tech needs there that will need to be addressed, and some energy will be shifted to make this possible. Please be assured that our online services will continue to be available each week, no matter what. But beginning next Sunday, November 21st, the way we view our online service will happen strictly through our live stream to YouTube. This means that you can still log on to Zoom for social hour, and we hope that you do. But you have to watch the service via YouTube, as the tech team no longer has the bandwidth to support both online platforms simultaneously, while also being in the sanctuary to run a soundboard for our in-person musicians and worship leaders. I'll be available today at our social hour if you have questions, and more information will come out via email today. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you need help. Now, please join me in a moment of gratitude for our amazing tech team. Thank you, Al Murray, Allison Sillers, Robin Matsky, Will White, and Don Getz. Without you, none of this would be possible. Thank you for your profound commitment to this congregation and its ministry. For today, join us on Zoom for our social hour committee fair. Thanks to Angela Figueredo and Paula Tucci, you have had access to the many videos produced by our committee chairs, and now you have a chance to connect with them in today's designated breakout rooms. Even if you've been aware or engaged with various groups in the past, I strongly encourage you to consider what your current interests are and what might be curious to you now. So join us today for this new day and this new engagement, and I hope to see you there. Thank you for being a vital part of our congregational life.
We'll close our service today with a closing hymn that we have not often sung together. It's 129, Let Love Continue Long. But as Nancy and I were looking at music and hymns to round out the service, she felt very strongly that this had the message that we needed to hear this morning. So I hope that you sing along with this interesting song, Let Love Continue Long.
Let love continue long and show to us the way. And if that love be strong, no hurt can have a say. And if that love remain but strong, no hurt can ever have a say. If love cannot be found, though common faith prevail, when love does not abound, a common faith will fail. When human love does not abound, a common faith will always fail. If we in love unite, debate can cause no strife, for with this love in sight disputes enrich our life. For with this bond of human love, disputes can mean a richer life. May love continue long and lead us on our way. And if that love be strong, no hurt can have a say. For if that love remain but strong, no hurt can ever have a say.
May it be so.
Now join me in our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. Please join me for the benediction. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always.